I like benefit, and I use benefit as not in and of itself, but the benefit for me is to sort of more deeply understand what we talk about here.
Yeah.
It's not an end to itself. Yeah.
Yeah, it's benefit is not a dirty word.
Well, it seems that way sometimes in some meetings.
I
Yeah.
know.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. But so
Because there are benefits, there's just nobody to have them.
okay. That's cool. That's cool. And yeah. Benefits for nobody. Okay.
Yeah.
That's cool. I like that.
I don't know. Feeling better sounds like a benefit to me.
I like it.
Yeah.
you know, yeah. How come you don't come to those meetings on the Tuesdays, or do you not? Are you there and I just don't see you? Or
That's a good question. Yeah, it's funny because I used to attend everybody. I used to attend Nkosi's meetings. I used to attend Sanders. And for a reason I cannot tell you, there's just somehow not a lot of interest to go to, like there's no seeking here.
beautiful.
Yeah. But I went for a long time.
Right. And until you don't. Right. Yeah.
Yeah, beautiful, perfect. Perfect. Ah. Yeah, and it's nothing special. There can just be a resonance with this, or use fill in the blank. The word doesn't matter. But there's just something that can just resonate with a Sander or a Michael or Nkosi or Leela. You don't need a reason.
Right. I like these meetings that you have. They're like don't have to do anything. Nothing to do, nothing to say, no way to particularly be. Just
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah, it's freeing.
Yeah.
It's just like, you wouldn't think this would be just what is. You wouldn't think just what is could be freeing.
Yeah. It's because most of my life I've been trying to change what is.
Yeah, everybody.
Yeah, yeah. It's like I used to read that in the books, in many 40 years ago, enlightenment is just here now.
Right.
So I knew this on that level 50 years ago when I first started. I read it.
Yeah.
Oh, it's funny how it works.
No, it just, like take self inquiry. Romana's the thing was like, it's innocent. You don't realize you're doing it, but you're already starting from a me. you're starting off as, okay, what am I? So there's already an assumption that,
Right.
yeah.
Good point.
Well, I could just never get around that. Like it finally the light bulb went on. I'm like, who is doing self-inquiry?
Well, that's a good question. That's a really good question. Who's doing the self-inquiry? Okay, now we have Dan. So the true teaching is going to now come out somehow.
What the hell? Right, yeah, 2 against 1. Not fair.
It's not fair.
I mean, there can be stories of, it's not fair. You could tell stories. But the stories are empty. Yeah, shockingly, they don't mean anything. Which is what gives them their freedom. That they don't mean anything is it's a tremendous freedom. It's when they mean something that it's like a burden. It's heavy. And so like you could say, just to say, like it's the power of already. So already there's no you to disappear, to do anything. There's just simply what seems to be happening. The meaning, you could say, is the hamster wheel. Because now I'm getting somewhere. This means something. I'm on a journey. I mean, so you could say that the freedom turns out there never was a journey. It's like this has always been here, but it just to tell a story, it's like you get so lost in the imagining that you just don't see it, or you miss it, or it's just lacking, so you don't even notice just this. Because just this isn't saying anything. It's just right here always, whether there's talking, not talking. Hi, Cedric. Welcome. I'm digging the shirt. Quite the flags from, I think I can name some. Mexico.
Right.
What's up?
Doing good. How are you?
Good.
What
Come
are
on.
we?
You got, say hello. Say hi to us. What's going on over there in New Orleans?
Life. What is going. No, I mean, of course, if I may speak on, you know, the different climate, different culture, uh,
Mhm.
you know, I think it's everyone here is pretty nice. Everyone says hello to each other here, and we're pretty close to everyone in the city. So I think it's something different that I've experienced from other places.
Yeah.
But apart from that, really, there, all I can say is there's just, what is, in the sense that it doesn't feel different whether you're in New York or New Orleans.
Yes.
So
Boom. Really? That's the changeless change. It's like always changing and yet it never moves.
true.
So I know exactly, right? We know exactly what Cedric's talking about. You get on the plane, you fly to Hawaii, you're in Hawaii, but somehow you're still you. And you get back on the plane, fly back, and you're like, God, it feels like I never even left.
What goes and comes back.
Well, maybe a story.
Is there a distance that the story travels? And is there a location from which it comes from?
Cedric, you can answer your own question. I know that you're about to.
Uh, In fact, I don't feel that an answer is required.
Okay. Yeah, that's a good answer. Yeah, what you said is
Huh.
a location and a distance. And of course, the location is a story. Distance is a story. So there's no location or distance except for the story. Nothing outside the story that isn't the story. Right? That's what I thought you would say. But your answer was even better, really. Because there is no answer really to any of these questions.
And it seems like the answer I don't know how to say that word, but perpetuates the question.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, it's endless. The question leads to an answer, which leads to another question. Nothing wrong with it. It can, seeking, it can be beautiful for a while until it isn't.
Yeah, the story doesn't have an off switch. It can't turn itself off. So perpetuates if it ever existed in the first place, which of course it doesn't. It's just a story. So when does a story that doesn't exist end or start?
And who is the one who notices the story? You know,
Oh, now we're back to Don's question. That's where I came in anyway. That's it.
you
Who's-
know,
Sorry.
who is the one who notices that there is a story? And
Oh, sorry, Cedric, instead of who, when we say what?
you said instead of who, we say what?
Instead of saying who notices, can we ask what notices?
Well, Michael, I would
Right.
just point, say it doesn't really matter whether we say who or what.
Uh-huh.
Either one is going to be a thing that's going to be another story.
Right. It's just that who kind of implies a person, where what, at least here, is felt a little more open-ended. Like, I don't know what it could be.
Yeah. Who implies that there is already a person to whom we have to discover. No, I could see that. So where does the question come from? Or,
Wouldn't
you know,
wouldn't it be the same? Really, it's the question doesn't the question come from the same place that the answer does? Like, isn't what's asking the question the same as what's giving the answer? They're not two.
I is saying that there is a story, for me, in that there seems to be, the story and the one saying that there is a story. What if the story is itself the saying? What if there isn't even anyone who recognizes the story apart from the story basically speaking itself? Or at least when I ask who or what is, noticing the story, I cannot find anything other than the story. At least something that I can describe that's other than the story. Even if I say that I know it, the one saying that is also part of the story.
Yeah, well, I is a story.
So what we're saying, there's nothing aware of the story, or what is aware of the story comes from the story.
Well,
Yeah.
there's something other than the story, then point it out.
I mean, but that's when stories become beautiful, when they're not owned, when they're light and free, they're just playful. So, Don, we were talking about benefits at the beginning. I said there's nothing wrong with benefits. It's not a dirty word.
Right.
So this feeling lighter, somehow you connecting with others in a deeper and more real way, even if you don't know how that seems to happen. Like, you're not making it, but you just seem more connected what you've kind of always wanted. It turns out it was always here. So you may, like as happened here, the ability to read books, like all the spiritual books, all my precious non-duality books, like just one day, boom, boom, never read another. You just couldn't. Like it was just still felt intellectual somehow. I'm like, if it's already here, if it's already this, then, what do I need a book for? And again, there's nothing wrong with enjoying a book, but here it's a seeking. It's not enjoying. It's like, you're reading the spiritual book to gain a nugget or insight or wisdom that's going to take you to a better experience somehow. And it turns out that is the experience, the imagining that there's something that is in the future. That's what is. That's what's happening. There can be seeking, just simply seeking. It's not yours. And that's sort of that owning that it's my seeking. So to say, like here, that's what the assumption was. Oh, I'm seeking. And then one day that was sort of like, well, am I am I sure that seeking is me?
But the my seeking is the story already. And then the not seeking is also already the story. Already. So seeking, not seeking is the story already.
Right. That's another way of saying that it's not even seeking, because you don't know what it is until you tell the story of seeking or not seeking. Now you have a story, but it's still just a story. But what really is it? We don't know. This.
Wow. Wow. That was good.
That's why, that's one why you can say, well, if it's seeking, it's just this. Now, before we had the story that, well, if it's seeking, it's not quite this because it's seeking. But this is a way, just what you showed. It's not really seeking. It's not really anything. It's where we say unknowing. We don't know. It's this. Can't put a word on it. Can't know it at all. There's no one here to know it or tell the story.
You're frying my brain. Which is the story. Brain frying is the story.
Is understanding something we do or something that happens naturally? Do we produce understanding?
Do we, well, I can't say that I produce anything. That's a good, there's a good inquiry. Like, what is it that you actually think that you're doing? Your heart beating, your lungs breathing, thoughts appearing, pains in the body. Like, I just questioned all those. I'm like, well, I'm not doing the pain in the body. I'm not doing the have to pee 5 times a night,
So then everything happens naturally.
Well, it's already happening naturally. It's never not been happening naturally. We just imagined we were doing it. It's like a dream for a while. And then you wake up and you're like, remember in Disneyland, those Autotopia, you're probably too young, but when I was a kid, they had these Autotopia cars. And I swear that I was like 8 years old. I thought I could, because the first time I did it, I turned right and it went right. So I'm thinking, dude, I got the power. And then the next time there was a big rock, and being a little kid, I wanted to smash the car into the rock. And I tried to go left, but it wouldn't let me. It like hit a metal guardrail underneath the car. And I'm looking down there, I'm like, oh man, I'm not driving this. It was all imagined. Like for that first half of the track, I swear to you, I was thinking I had the full. So that's kind of like this. It really feels like you're a separate doer. It's so convincing. And then one day it just can thin out and you're not so sure as you once were.
Yeah, it's even worse on that Autopia thing. You actually did have a little bit of control. You could move it a little bit, like, maybe 10% of what.
Yeah.
Of the, and that's just enough to make you feel if you're a little kid. Like you said,
Yeah.
use the illusion.
Yeah. No, it made it more convincing.
Yeah.
But I never really had any control. That's the thing. There's no such thing as a little bit of control.
Well, because you're not outside of anything to control it.
Yeah.
There's no one outside of this.
Well, control is two already, yeah. The person, something that's controlling something else. That's what isn't. That's, there's just what happens. There's just this. There's just the happening, however it's showing up. Rain or shine. It's all still this, whether it's hated or it's loved.
But the person is the story of control. And that's all that control is a story. Isn't actually really any control. Because there's no two. There's nothing to control something else. There are no two things. It's all this. No one to know it and no one to control it.
It's like the story that we could tell of this Zoom meeting, but it assumes a past and a future. Like that this meeting is sort of sandwiched in between. It's already implied. That's how time seems to appear. Because we're having this meeting now, we didn't have it yesterday and we're not having it tomorrow. It's now. So there's this illusion of a continuum that even though there's just this, it can feel as if there was a past and there's going to be a future.
You know, all of this, you know, anything that I speak of, you know, I can't help but feel that it doesn't have a reality apart from me speaking of them. You know, let's say, you know, like this entire Zoom meeting, none of us said anything. Would we be able to talk about how the Zoom meeting went? Or even even as I am speaking, you know, I felt that I could just simply be quiet, you know. I just feel that there's nowhere to go, you know, there's nowhere to go. You know, there's nowhere to go.
Yeah. Well, so just what's speaking there's nothing more to it than just, or right now this speaking, seemingly these words, there's nothing more to it than just the words. There's empty words like fireworks. You know how fireworks appear and then they're gone.
So we shouldn't take what anyone says seriously.
No. I mean, but there's already no one there to do that. So taking something personally can happen. And also not taking things personally, laughing them like water off a duck's back. That can also happen because that's the freedom. When the words are seen as empty and inherently meaningless, then you realize the meaning is just for fun. It's like a game of make-believe, it's like a dream.
No one has ever spoken or not spoken. There's just this appearance of speaking. Seems like we call it speaking. We call it a person speaking, but it's just happening. There's no one doing it, speaking or being quiet. It's just showing up in that form, whatever it is. We call it speaking, and we call it meaning. If we say there's something that has meaning, it's just showing up too. There's no one that it means anything to. And there's no one who means anything.
Mm-hmm.
All of that is just a story that relates to a person. But with a person is still, this is a story. It's all the same story as we were talking about before. Story's not about anyone. Nobody's hearing the story. Nobody's knowing the story, doing the story, telling the story. No one here. Oh, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
No, Dad.
No, I was just going to say, so a person is like a narrator. You know, when you watch a show, there's this guy talking, telling you what's going on as you're watching it. And, you know, it feels like the same thing the person is doing. It's only is it telling the story of life.
The narrator and the audience at the same time. Telling the story to itself, you could say. But there's still no one there.
Yeah. Empty is empty. Like, that's why you can't hang on to anything. Like,
Empty is empty, and empty is full. And then fullness, empty is empty, empty is full. Full and empty are no separation. No separation between full and empty. So it's like everything.
yeah.
Like
Like, somehow, like, this meeting, this Zoom, like, can, when there's a me with an agenda, like, there'd always be like, well, okay, when's this gonna end so I could get to dinner, or, you know, I have to do this, that, and the other when I get off and all this. But when there's just this, it takes on a richness. The sounds, the colors, the vibrancy, the other voices, like, you just start listening to the different sounds popping up. It's it's beautiful, but not in a way that you would as a person. Like, as a me, it's not that kind, it's different. It's beauty, like more like a magic show, like, wow.
yeah.
You could say that's the fullness of the emptiness.
Right.
Empty, 'cause you can't do anything with it. You can't get anything out of it except what it is. It's
Well, it doesn't matter the label. It's still unknown. Like, whatever label, it seems like there's infinite labels. Tree, dog, house, car, science, biology, dancing, you know, a million things that it can be called. But it's it's only ever, it turns out it's only ever been this, like, the whole time.
Sort of like the story is waiting for what the story the story is waiting for what the story is going to say. so, so
But that's it. You saying that, Don, is perfectly it, and then laughing. That's it. That's all that's happening. It's just you
oh,
saying
beautiful.
that and laughing. Like, nothing else is happening. Like, that's the simplicity of what is. Is it, you don't have to, like, worry, so to say, about anything else, because there's literally just what is. So then you start looking, okay, well, if there's just what is, what is?
So similar, something like on Cedric's question, I think is, what I'm saying is, well, is there anything before the story? I think
Who's asking?
yeah.
It's so ridiculous. Really. It's just, it becomes impossible to take this so serious anymore. I have to have to tell you.
Yeah, well, it's kind of like asking, well, is there anything before this? And it's, you see that it's a story. The whole, I mean, that's the, well, okay, is there anything after this? Is there anything next to this? Is there anything inside this or around this? You can see it's just words playing with stories. You know, no, what does it mean? No, well, there's just this. That's why we always end up with just this. Because no, whatever words you, however you arrange words around it, or you know, play however you play with the story of this, it's just it doesn't become anything but this, which is where
Yeah. So what was seen here though, Dan, is I noticed that it wasn't the implications of just this. I didn't see like it registered with any. I'm like, well, if it's just this, then there's no past. Like that has implications because now you're not dragging my life story into this. There's just this. Oh, well, what's that?
right. Well, you said I don't know something. The implication wasn't appreciated. No person can appreciate the implication of that. The person gets eaten by that. No past. If there's no past, that person goes along with the past. The person is the past.
Yeah.
So the person can't hear about no past. It doesn't make sense unless the person goes away, so to speak. And then you see there never was a person except a story. So where does the person go when the person disappears? The story goes. But the story was never here. That's the thing about stories. That's why it's a story. A story is something that we can talk about that's not here, that isn't. That's crazy. Anyway, Mike, you were talking about the implication of there being no past.
Well, or there's being just this. That alleviates everything except for just this. It's so light and freeing. It's not bringing in this problem and that problem and this story and that one. And, you know, when I was, you know, 3, I was traumatized. No, it's just saying exactly now. So it's not fancy. You know, that's a good thing. Now is always available.
But it's not light and freeing for a person, because the person wants to be light and free with me here and experiencing light and free. And there is no experience of light and free. There's just light and free. No one knows what it is.
But the wanting to be light and free is the wanting to be light and free as a story is what is already. So therefore, wanting to be light and free is being light and free. Everything is light and free because there's nothing else. There's only this. No stuckness, no pain, no nothing, just this.
Yeah. That wanting to be light and free that we recognize as the person wants to be light and free as something else than this.
Which is this,
Yeah.
which is this. So it's perfect.
Yeah.
So if you want to be light and free and feel good, that's this. That's perfect.
So if there's no one to feel good, it'll be light and free.
In the story.
Yeah, it's already, it's Michael. I'll
Yeah.
take Michael's line.
Well, yeah, already is the magic word here. Already, because if it's already, seriously, I had to say, what the hell are you doing? If it is already, you already have the $100 in your pocket. Why are you running around looking for $100? Doesn't make sense. Like there was just nothing to be done about already. Like for me, it was like the fatal shot. It's like, well, already just precludes any doing to get free. If it's all, if all there is freedom. Already showing up as suffering, showing up as not liking this. Yeah, that's a shock. But that would be it too.
Can one say that, we go to the point where we can say that, even of course we can say, spirituality, great benefit, one can attest to the fact that somehow, something is better than it was 2 years ago or so. There's a recognition of that.
Amen. Yeah, amen.
Can we say that even that is also a story?
Yeah, but there's nothing wrong with it.
Yeah.
Like, it's like again, Don and I were talking, it's got this weird thing about, oh, well, benefits are dirty. That's it too. So there's nothing wrong with, God, I do feel like I have a better understanding of this, even though I don't know what it is. I can't point to it. I couldn't tell you what it is if my life depended on it. Just go ahead and pull the trigger.
There's yeah, it's like there's nothing wrong with the story at all. And so what if that's true, if there's nothing wrong with the story and we're going to have a story because it's all story, then I'm looking at it, well, just why not? I've heard this from other teachers, not non-dual teachers, but other teachers. Just the story you tell, make it one that you like. Make it a good story.
Well, a good story is for somebody. Somebody, I want a good story. Who, it's like, this is even, it's like, it, I don't know if you guys remember, when I was a kid, they had this thing called the water wiggle, where you put a
Yeah.
hose and it was like an upside down orange cup with hair on it. It was like rope. And it would you would put it on your lawn and you turn the hose on and it would shoot a jet stream into the upside down cup, which would blast water down. And this thing, you just couldn't control it. I mean, kids would get bonked in the eye, there are lawsuits, because it was like deadly, because there's just no way to control this whipping around. And that's sort of this. Like, as much as we try, it's so beautiful. Like, you have an appreciate, you understand, yeah, of course, when I'm suffering, I'm going to seek relief. It's completely natural. But this is so wild and free already. It's uncontrolled. Nobody's doing it.
Even trying to get the highest spiritual understanding, no one is doing it. And it, the reason why I asked that question, because for a while, there's been this sense that I'm getting better, getting somewhere. And, let's say, comparing what what I can say that I am today as opposed to 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's say sense of having gotten better. It's still, I can't say that that there is a finale, like, an end, like if I lived for 2 billion year 1 billion, I'll still be seeking for something,
Oh,
to try to get somewhere, you know.
Well,
And though I practice spirituality, I don't put what I am totally, in the sense that it it is what I am, or that I am actually getting better. But there is something here that is the same from 2 years ago to here, that's been knowing what it feels like not to not know anything, and what it feels like to know something.
yeah. Yeah. Or maybe that's just the story that's coming out. Just no, I wow. Yeah, I'm saying maybe these stories that feel like they have a past, that's assumed that I'm a seeker. If you look now, can you find something called a seeker?
I can find how it operates, how I can find, or I can identify the difference when there's a feeling of seeking and the feeling of not seeking. That I can identify that, but I cannot identify some entity seeking.
Yeah, but that's still a story. So now, just right now, what is there?
When you ask what is there, I can only point to the world, I can only point to something external. But other than that, I just, if when we speak of seeking, it's part of the external. But when I leave what is external, there's nothing.
Well, are you seeking right now?
It's also part of what's external.
No, you're
I
just
can't.
sitting there. You're just sitting there. We're just having a little chit chat on Zoom. Like, that's all that's going on. Do you see this is the simplicity of what is, like without the overlay of the mental story. Just what's happening.
Yeah, even when you say just what's happening, I can follow that. I guess when you say just what's happening, it immediately goes to, the description of what's happening. And the description of what's happening is constantly changing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
However, as everything is changing, I can't identify it, but I must say that something isn't changing, at the same time that everything is changing.
Yeah.
So are we talking about what is changing or what is not changing? Then
Yeah.
I can better.
You can't talk about one without the other.
Yeah.
And of course that's a story too. Part of the story. You can't have love without the other. I believed that all my life. That's another story. Not necessarily true.
Yeah, the seeking or the getting, it presupposes that there's something other than just this, just what is. I've mentioned it before, but I do like when Jim Newman says, well, show me something other than this.
But that's a beautiful question, but that's based on a story that this is something.
Well, all pointers are going to be impotent.
Good word.
Any last comments or questions before we close out this evening?
This has been a wonderful meeting. Like I always say, this is the five of us here, very sweet. And I do, as a separate entity over here, as part of the story, though. So it's the story talking. Feel very, really privileged, truly, at a deep level to be whatever happened here. If anything happened here, whatever. Great appreciation and privileged over here. And so whoever you guys are, if you're anything out there except a figment of my imagination, I am appreciative. So if you do identify over there as a separate thing, know that you're appreciated.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody. Dawn, Dan, Cedric, and On. Have a great evening, everybody.